Like all living things, our body is a self-sensing system of nature. We experience sensory information from moment to moment to help us survive, and it's happening beneath our conscious awareness. And I want to start by guiding you to a sensory process right now to help you connect with your inner wisdom. So if you stroke the back of your hand in a really soothing way, just give yourself a little tenderness, and your inner arm always feels a little different. Just notice what you feel. Where do you sense sensation? So just play there for a moment. And notice that as well as the touch on your skin, there is also a sensation that arises from within your body, a feel-good sensation. And any sensations that arise, whether pleasant or unpleasant, from within the body are called interoception. And it helps us to regulate our nervous system. We experience them daily, the ones for regulating our body physiology, like hunger, thirst, the urge to pee, or this one. The urge to unwind, and it's called pandiculation. Pandiculation is the body's way of revitalizing our fascia and resetting our nervous system. It's the natural way to become supple. Dogs, cats, and newborn babies move in this natural way. And in this lesson, I want to guide you to that somatic blueprint. I'm Yasmin Lambat. I am a master somatic movement therapist and educator. I'm the founder of SomaSensing, which is a somatic way of tuning into the self-sensing, self-regulating, self-healing nature of your body. It's informed by fascia research, the soft matter that gives our body its form, biotensegrity, which is the geometrical design of our form that helps us to move with efficiency. It helps us to sense our stability without having to put any strain on our body, and nervous system regulation. So I wanted to create this free lesson for anyone who is curious about moving in a natural way, but also if you are looking to become a somatic movement therapist with me, this is a great place to explore and experience the way that I'm guiding and whether it lands for you. So in this lesson, I am going to share with you nature's way of keeping you supple, as well as the integration of body, mind, and emotion in motion, and how accessible that is. And then some differences between stretching and pandiculation, just so that you understand why I prefer pandiculation to a prescribed stretch, and how I would guide anyone to become more supple in their body through natural movement. Okay, so I want to dive in with a little bit of giving you some visuals to help you understand the difference between stretching and pandiculation. So when you hear the word stretch, what comes to mind for you? What is it that you imagine? So what you may imagine is an elastic pulling, something lengthening, something that makes you more flexible, might give you a range of movement in a joint that feels stuck. That's usually some of the ways that we associate stretching, right? And if we were to visualize it, you might imagine a band like this. And when you pull, this happens. The problem with stretch and elastic becomes thinner. That's actually not what happens in the body from what we're learning about fascia. From biotensegrity, we learn about the geometry of our form, and that's really helpful in understanding how everything connects to everything, so that when you move, everything moves. And you want to find the efficiency of motion, go to nature's blueprint. So instead, what happens when you're pandiculating, pandiculation is not a stretch, even though it's described as a stretch and yawn response. It's not a stretch. And I've described it as a stretch just to make it easy for people to understand. But I've changed that, and I keep coming back to it's an unwinding motion. And that's because of the way we're designed. So instead of a pull and lengthening, the whole body responds. There is an expansion in pandiculation. And what this motion of the body, the intelligence of its design, enhances the auxetic behavior of fascia, which means the shock absorbing property of fascia. Auxetic means when you pull something, it expands. It doesn't get thinner. So if we can remember that, because that language of expansion is going to come into our lesson. Okay, so we've been sitting for a while. Oh, let's just go into pandiculation. Oh, and notice what happens. Oh, I've just been sitting for a long time today. And just in your experience, what do you notice? What is the language that arises for you? And I want to share some of the language that arises for me, and also how it helps me to guide you to this somatic blueprint and heighten your awareness of the nature of our design from within, right? So what happens first? We sit and we like, oh, I just need to get into here. The urge arises from within, accompanied by an in-breath. And then as you may close your eyes perhaps and notice how the body shape changes from within. So everything's happening from the inside out. Might be a bit of an unwinding. Oh, and at the end, there's a sigh, right? So you're revitalizing your fascia and you're regulating your nervous system. You're noticing that sigh at the end, noticing the sensation at the end. So just to recap, the urge arises from within, accompanied by an in-breath. Everything feels like it's expanding, like a balloon's expanding from within. Oh, there's an unwinding motion, a shape-changing motion. Oh, it gets into areas that maybe a stretch may never get to, right? And then there's a sigh. So that is the blueprint. And you can access this blueprint in different ways. And that's what I'm going to share with you next. So the first way to access this blueprint is in 4-point kneeling. And it kind of takes us to how dogs, cats pandiculate, newborn babies pandiculate. But I want to start with this 4-point kneeling, because if you are a yoga practitioner or if you are practicing yoga, you'll be familiar with cat-cow, right? So cat-cow pose here. And often in cat-cow, there's a linear motion. There's an arching and there's this motion. Okay, so that's happening in a linear fashion. And it's still stuck in the paradigm of the spine in alignment. And we're moving away from that. That's not really how the nature of our body is designed. So I'm going to give you some practical guidelines on how to come to sense your body at rest. So trusting in your sensation, if there's any areas of strain, you just want to let go. You don't want to be holding your body in alignment or just hang out. It's like it's a resting state. Your head is hanging and your hands are at ease. There's no spreading of your fingers or flattening your palms. In fact, you want to keep a little arch in your hand as well. You're resting on the heels of your hands. And just come to this place of rest. You might notice that from this place of rest, your body starts to unwind. The urge arises from within. Oh, and then there's a pandiculation. You're getting into those areas just as you did in seated or standing. Oh, I just want to get into there. You can move around wherever your body takes you. Follow the wisdom of your body. Oh, and then let go. Okay, let's come back to sitting. You're following the urge from within. You might be tempted to guide your body. And at first it's okay. You know, sometimes I guide people if they can't find it. But really, you want to follow that interoceptive urge. The magic happens when you follow the nature of your self-sensing system, right? Okay, so I'm going to guide you to a different way. We could explore just in sitting, right? So here you are, if you found yourself on the ground. You want to remember that our body moves as a whole. It requires very little sensation for everything to move. So for example, if I'm here and I want to come off the ground and I send the floor away with my hand, it requires very little effort. Okay, so pandiculation, that sense of expansion, happens every time we move. If we're picking up something off the ground, if you're reaching for a mug on the top shelf, there's a whole body expansion and your body self-stabilizes. You don't need to pull in your core or move a separate core configuration in your body. Everything moves. So let's look at that self-stabilizing ability of your body for a moment. So here you are, you're in sitting. Doesn't matter where you could have your foot here. It really doesn't matter. So find something that feels easeful for you. And just imagine, hey, I just want to come off the floor. You're using your hand to send the floor away. And in that sending the floor away, there's an urge to take a breath in, right? You might find a bit of coaxing, and then a sigh as you come back. It's like a body yawn sensation. So let's explore that a few times. So you're here. Oh, you just want to send the floor away. And the body will take a spontaneous breath in. So I call that a pandiculation reflex. And what you'll notice is the body may move in a slight spiral and you can get into your lower back without having to stretch. Your lower back, your thoracolumbar fascia moves. It expands, it glides, everything moves. So but it happens from the inside out. Okay, so you can play around with sending the ground away. You might come into some kind of spiral. Just see where it takes you. I'll give you some other guidelines for sending the floor away. And it doesn't matter where you start. So one of the movements that I guide in replace of a twist in yoga is this spiral motion. So here we are. I'm sitting in a position that's comfortable. It's a natural position to sit in. It's a primal meaning we're born to sit this way. And if you can either rest your arm just on your knee here, or you can rest your hand on your ankle, just holding onto your ankle, and let your body hang. So bring your body to rest. The shoulder might come to your ear, and that's okay. So this whole idea that we need to pull, sit upright, let go. You want to shape change from within and hang out. The shape change is the important part of your practice. Allow yourself to find what feels good. Okay, so let's look at a spiral motion. Now, you could either send the floor away with your hand, or what's best in this practice is to reach your knee forward. So as you reach your knee forward, the rest of your body responds. And here you are in a spiral motion. Okay. Everything moves from the inside out. So you could explore that a few times from a resting state. Remember, we're always starting from rest, because from resting, when you initiate a sensation of motion, the whole body responds. The body takes a breath in spontaneously. There's a pause. There's a pause in that expansion. And then a sigh. So another way to experience the sense of pandiculation is as you begin to experience the knee moving forward, the body takes a breath in. In that expansion, there's a pause. Just need to get into there. And then a sigh. And notice how it's getting into those areas. It's winding. You're not pulling a ligament. You're moving everything around the area of your pelvis, the joint between, well, I'm saying joint, there is no joint, your thigh bone and the socket. Everything is moving. There's a phase change that happens. So I'm going to talk to you about the phase change in a moment. So letting go. Expansion. I just need to get into there. And then a sigh. And there's a phase change and information change. So just to give you a sense of the difference between that motion, okay, that one, and maybe a twist in yoga, perhaps, that we've learned in the past. And, you can sit in the way you've learned in the past, how you've experienced a twist in yoga. So in yoga, we've often been taught to align through the spine, right? To take a breath in, perhaps a breath out. And then we're finding a twist, either here or here. So in somatic practice, the best way to experience and learn is to explore both ways. And a familiar term that we use in somatic education is there's no right or wrong. A teacher doesn't tell you what's right or wrong, but guides you to an experience. So in this, we're exploring both ways, aligning through the spine. You take one hand behind, perhaps, and whatever breath pattern you've learned or not learned, is just to find that spiral or twist in the body. So in yoga, it's called a twist. I call, any spiral motion spiral, and just notice the difference. What do you notice? And what I notice is the other way, the prescribed way, feels like it's an outside motion. There feels like there's more strain. So if I'm teaching beginners, for example, this allows them to be where they want to be. And everything moves. Everything moves, and you're not isolating one particular area to move in a twist. You're not twisting in the thoracic spine, which is often what we were taught in the paradigm of the body as linear, right? So without going into a lot of detail around that, just experience both and notice what happens. And from this place, you could also, of course, there's that motion. Remember the previous practice of sending the floor away? You could experience that expansion. And just notice what it feels like. I'm always trusting in what your sensory wisdom tells you about what's happening in your body, rather than my saying to you, this is better or not. It's really about guiding you to your sensory nature. So, you could explore that. Okay, so we've done how you can initiate the urge by sending the ground away, how the breath arrives. So there's an expansion, a pause, and then a sigh. So I'm going to come to that again and talk to you a little bit about what's happening in your body's fascia and this term phase change. So fascia doesn't stretch, it phase changes. Where does that term come from? Where does phase change come from? So in fascia education, we were introduced to the work of Gerald Pollack, who is a researcher on water and its fourth phase. So we are familiar with water being ice, solid, vapor, and a liquid. And what we don't talk about is this fourth phase. So Gerald Pollack talks about water having a fourth phase based on the charge of that water. And it's more gel-like or crystal-like. And this fourth phase, where our body's fascia can go from feeling stiff to soft, or it feels hydrated, is where that change happens. So instead of something stretching, you're perhaps releasing a little bit of strain or stiffness somewhere, and then the body feels juicier, is the word I want to describe. So when I'm guiding people, they often say, oh, my body feels juicy. It's because of that phase change. Your body's changing from stiff to soft. You're not stretching, and it increases the gliding quality of your connective tissue. So in your lower back, for example, your thoracolumbar fascia, we're back here. And if I send the floor away and I coax and I pulse, I can get into any areas that feel a little stiff or stuck in my body. And it phase changes. A really simple way to experience that, sitting on your heels. You take your hands to the front. Remember the same guideline, just send the floor away. So if you can take your awareness to your lower back, let your body come to ease wherever you are. And if you send the floor away with your hands, your body takes a spontaneous expanding breath, right? If you take your arms further, it feels different. Depends where you want to get into your back. If you take your knees a little further apart, that also feels different. Okay, so if you keep your knees together, how does it feel? And for me, my hands closer give me more of a balloon sensation in my lower back. So other things to notice. Is there a whole body response? In that ballooning sensation, do you get up into your shoulders? So the reason I'm guiding this movement is to show you the difference between sending the floor away with your hand and having your arms out in front, which we would normally do for a stretch, right? If you're reaching your fingertips forward, what is that sensation? Experiencing both. What does your body tell you? What is your sensory wisdom telling you? And which one gives you that inside out whole body experience, right? So that's a good one to explore. And the difference between, say, reaching your arms and sending the floor away from you. And you could send the floor away in any body position that feels good. If it feels unnatural and you're like, oh, where should I be placing my hand? Just let that go, because I'm going to guide you to one of the easiest ways to guide pandiculation, especially if you are a movement professional and you want to introduce a little bit of fascial unwinding. I'm going to guide you to a practice on the ground and some guidelines on how to guide the practice. So when you're guiding or when you're experiencing it in your own body, the first part is to bring your body to rest, right? So just to find where your body feels at rest. And then to bring your attention to anywhere within your body that you feel, oh, I need to get a little bit of ease in this area. And often what happens, not always for everyone, so often what happens is you come to rest on the ground like that. Ah, you can rest on the ground. You don't have to have your legs unfolded, they can be folded. And to bring awareness perhaps to the neck and shoulders. So if you bring your attention maybe, say, to the neck and shoulders, you'll find that your body starts to, it feels the urge to get into that area, right? I call it kind of, I just need to get into there. I just need to get into that space. And that really is as simple as getting into your fascial unwinding. So your pandiculation sensation. So if you can rest here for a moment, you can follow the guidance of my voice. You could close your eyes. So for this segment, if you can please come to the ground and experience it for yourself. Finding your place of rest. There might be a few spontaneous sighing sensations that arise, which is a good sign for nervous system self-regulation. You could have your feet resting wherever they feel comfortable, maybe a little bit wider, arms a little further away. That's the other thing. If your arms are too close to your body, it will feel different to arms further away. And the sense you want to find is space. How do I find my sense of space in my body? And then can you take your attention to maybe the back of your neck? And then maybe to your shoulders. And could you explore that sense of, I just need to get into here. You could start your unwinding there and see where it takes you. I just need to get into there. Notice how the breath arises. You could pause at any time and continue. You might find that your pelvis starts to rock. So in this session, in this segment of this session, the purpose of the practice is to tune into your sensory awareness and really ask yourself, where do I need to get into? Just that. I just need to get here. And let your body take you there. Okay, just let your body take you there. You're following that urge, that interoceptive urge from within. Finding that sensation. Okay. Okay, so that's one way of experiencing pandiculation and what we call fascial unwinding, a spontaneous motion of your body to just get into those areas from a place of rest and ease. Okay, another way, if you find that that wasn't happening for you, so if you're resting on the ground and just listening to the sound of my voice, you can fold one leg in. So just one leg is unfolded on the ground, lengthened on the ground, the knees bent on the opposite side. And could you find the sense of your foot on the ground? And then setting the floor away with your foot. So just standing into the floor. Notice how your body takes, a breath in. I just need to get into there. A whole body yawn. And then a sigh. And you could explore the urge arising from within just by standing into the ground, the whole body responds. You take a breath in, and it goes all the way to your neck and shoulders. You'd experience both sides. Just finding this unwinding. And you might be curious to explore a little. So just to be curious. Oh, where can I go? Where is it taking me? And following the urge from within your body. So you could find that inner urge that way by standing into the ground with your foot. You can find it by resting on the ground and allowing your pelvis to rock, starting with the pelvic rock. And as you rock through your pelvis, just let your body begin to unwind. A little pelvic rock. And as you drop the knees to the ground, your body will take a spontaneous breath in. And finding that blueprint. Rocking is nice and soothing. So as you rock to soothe, as your knees drop, you're connecting to that pandiculation blueprint. That urge to unwind. It's like you're wringing a towel or a dishcloth. But you're taking that breath in. Resting at any time, you could rest at any time in this practice. There may be an urge to get into your shoulders. You might stand into the ground with both feet and get into the neck and shoulders to unwind. And the whole purpose is to sense from within. You can have your eyes open or close. And just get into those areas. And coming to the end of your practice. Always feels good after unwinding. It's a whole body integrated approach. Your physical nature of your form. So where you've been holding strain and stuckness, your emotional state, your emotional sense is linked to that, right? So it's integrating breath, body, mind, and emotion. So that just gives you an experience of how we guide somatic experiences in SomaSensing. And if you want to join a certification, there will be more information. I will send that out to you. Or if you want to experience an online course, you can. Or if you want to be guided on a one-on-one. Thank you for joining me. And I look forward to hearing from you.